The following audio was recovered from a hard drive found in a burned-out storage locker near Seattle, Washington. The owner could not be found.
Well, Spumoni milkshake's gone, so time to start recording, I guess. The most condescending phrase in the world is ask a stupid question, get a stupid answer. My dad would use it all the time when he was still alive. Such a counterproductive thing to teach your kid, but maybe if I was a parent too, I'd have a different opinion after my brutes started talking. Now, though, I'm just sitting here on this rooftop downtown, thinking about my dad and stupid answers to my stupid questions, and watching the sunset reflect off all the glass skyscrapers surrounding me. The rich oranges and pinks don't seem to be helping my mood as much as I thought they would. And neither is this milkshake. When I started the Liminal Rooms podcast, I had this idea of preservation. That I was capturing and bottling up all of these points in place and time that were becoming harder and harder to find as humanity continued to box itself in tighter and louder. Audio fossils of ambiance and history. I thought it would help me relax, give me some purpose, escape my own box after, everything. It's not important, but I keep running into these same questions over and over again. So, let's lay them out, see where things go. It might even be fun. Stupid question number 1. What's inside an empty room? Well, I've been doing this for a while now, and I keep finding these spots where empty is something of a subjective term. In a way, I guess it only justifies what I've been trying to do, but, this leads directly into stupid question number 2. If a bear shits in the woods, and no one is there to smell it, does it still leave a stain? Well, yeah, objectively, yeah. And when we clear the woods away via eminent domain or manifest destiny or whatever bullshit, we are still left with a bear and a stain. Maybe you kill the bear, and maybe you're able to bleach out the stain, but there's still a real risk that the bear kills you first in confused desperation. And in the process, you track dirty bear spore everywhere. This metaphor got away from me hard. It probably won't make the podcast edit, but hey, let's just power on through. So that empty room from question number 1 is layered in shit from all the bears that have passed through it from time immemorial. Fur and blood are seeped into the walls and tracked over all the floorboards, and when morning comes and I roll up my gear, I'm positive that my shadow will remain behind for the next sad introvert to find. The traces may be faint, barely perceivable, but they will last as long as the room itself does, eventually replacing it with calcified echoes of every past occupant, until somebody eventually comes along and knocks the whole structure down to start anew. Which, continuing to drive this awful metaphor, is when you get rampaging bears and uncontrolled feces everywhere. So that leads us to question number 3. What am I even doing on this roof? Well, I got this brilliant idea for a 2-part episode, a before and after. Parts of this old community college and a nearby neighborhood were scheduled to be torn down and replaced with modern facilities. Mostly it's classroom blocks, and a small, creaking theater built originally around the 1930s. Pretty young in the global scheme of things, but geriatric for a municipal building on the West Coast, and certainly well trod upon over the last few decades. That same night I set off, bypassing the chain-link fences blocking off that section of campus, and the trenches already dug out around the theater. A friend on the faculty was able to get me a key, so entry was simple enough, and I soon had the place completely to myself. I set up my equipment center row front, laying down my mat over at least a year's worth of dust. I only take my personal recorder with me when I make my initial circuit of a new location. This lets a centrally placed microphone audibly illustrate the shape of the room to all you listeners. The sound of my echoing footsteps here sketch out high ceilings, a single narrow balcony box that once contained light and soundboards, and a rather sizable stage for how big the community must have been when this was all built. And like so many places I visit, the air feels heavier than it should, lethargic. I woke it up, and it's still groggy. Looking around the hall, there are countless dark silhouettes on the wall where posters once hung, advertising performances long since gone. The seat rests and bathroom stalls are scarred by decades of students' initials. The rows of seat cushions crushed under the ghosts of 1,000 spectators, eager to see their loved ones perform. Backstage, the curtain has already been taken away. Among scaffolding and various discarded backdrops, I find a pile of school sweaters. No idea how old they are or how long they might have been here, but it looks like they were recently used as a nest of some sort, or a pillow for some sleeping animal. That was a few months back. Last night, I returned to the empty pit where a new foundation is being laid. I found a stack of concrete piping to set up my equipment, but honestly, there isn't much to see. It's a hole in the middle of the night. But it's also summer and clear, and I find myself leaning against a pallet of blocks and listening to the sounds of fresh breeze and mating insects for a few hours, just thinking about how crisp and new the world can feel. Until finally the sun starts to emerge again, and preferring to avoid any charges of trespassing, I went home. I slept the rest of the morning, and then, playing back the audio to prepare my edit, all I can focus on is the faint sound of somebody sobbing underneath the wind and crickets, and maybe that crying voice is asking me a question. And now I'm on a roof, miles from my house or the construction site, wondering if the emotional benefits of a second milkshake in a single evening outweigh the clear physical downsides. Which leaves only stupid question number 4. Will I see you again? I don't know, but I expect not. The sun is below the horizon again at this point. I should pack up before the gelato shop closes.
We hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and we hope you'll subscribe for more creepy content.